Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. The next chapter in this book, Riyadh al-Salihin, is Babun fi tahrimi tashabbuh al-rijali bin nisa wa tashabbuh al-nisa'i bil-rijal fi libasin wa harakatin wa ghayri dhalik. It's the chapter on the prohibition of the imitation of men with women and the imitation of women with men in their clothing and in their movements and in things like that. It's Imam Nawawi's comments. So the first hadith he puts, وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال, the Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المخنثين من الرجال والمترجلات من النساء. So that the Messenger of Allah cursed the effeminate people among the men and I don't even know what the other term is, basically the masculinated people among the women. And another narration, وفي رواية لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المتشبهين من الرجال بالنساء. The Messenger of Allah cursed those men who imitate women, والمتشبهات من النساء بالرجال, and those women who imitate men. The first hadith was in Muslim, and the second hadith is in al-Bukhari. Actually, no, both of them are in Sahih al-Bukhari. So this hadith teaches us, the Messenger of Allah was teaching us 1400 years ago that Allah has created the male and the female. And this is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created from the male and the female, He has created a male and a female. We learned that Adam and his wife were the first people who were created, and from them all of the other human beings came about. So because there's male and female, and there are inherent biological differences between male and female, and even we see in society throughout the world that there's some differences in not only physical, but in the way that they dress, the way that some of the mannerisms or some of the behavior, the Messenger of Allah was telling men not to imitate women and vice versa. And he did it in such a way where he said it so strongly that he actually cursed the men who did that. When you curse somebody, the Messenger of Allah is basically saying, like, these people are so bad, they're committing such a major sin that this is not something that's minor. This is something that's a really, really big deal. And these are the main hadith that we have on it. There are a few other hadiths. Imam Nawawi zooms in his commentary here. His commentary, he said, you know what? Some people will say, well, you know what? What about unisex clothing and gender-neutral clothing? And what about in some cultures, men behave a little bit differently? In some cultures, if you go for another country and you bring that man over here, the type of clothes he wears, it's considered to be effeminate. It's like girly in American society. And if you take some of the men's clothing in American society and you go to another country, they say, man, you're looking like a girl. So there's an aspect of, relativism. There's an aspect of culture plays a role in defining what is masculine and what is feminine. And which aspects, are we only talking about dress? Are we talking about speech? Are we talking about, which aspects are we talking about? So the first thing Imam Nawawi does is, like I've mentioned before when we've been covering this book, a lot of his commentary is put in his chapter title. He wanted to say something, he threw it in the chapter title. If he wants to say something more, he puts it after the hadith, but he rarely does that. So here he wants to specify, what did the Messenger of Allah mean by imitation? What does it entail? Is it dress only, or is it something else? So he says, في لباس وحركة وغير ذلك. In dress and in movement, in the way you walk, in the way you carry yourself, in certain manners, وغير ذلك, and so many other things that the average person in Arabia, they understood that there's a difference between men and women. The average person in the world today, even today, understands that there's a difference between men and women in the way that they dress. Even in every culture, people know that, wearing a suit and a tie is for which gender? For men. Which people wear high heels? Women. Nail polish. women. But what's happening is there's a movement. There's a movement here and around the world, particularly here, where there's a belief that there should be no differences between men and women. That was stage one. Stage two is that there's no such thing as a man and a woman. That gender is not a biological reality. Gender is a social construct, meaning people made it up. And now there's another thing called critical race theory, which basically teaches that even race, your ethnicity, is a social construct. I was just reading a message from Santa Ana School Board. In their document, this is all school boards across California at least. Every single school, elementary school, middle school, has adopted in their policy the belief that gender is a social construct and also that race is a social construct. So if you define yourself as any gender, it's called non-binary now, right? Or non-gender conforming or something like that. Non-binary is the term. You're basically saying that gender, male and female, gender doesn't exist. It's a complete creation that people made up. And now it's getting to the idea that race is something you can define. I can identify as African American. There's nothing you can do about it. Because if I feel that way, then that's perfectly fine. Now you would think, you know what? These are some crazy philosophy professors in Berkeley, teaching this stuff. And in the 1960s, these ideas were limited to a few crazy philosophy professors in Berkeley. But guess what? Now it has become almost mainstream across at least the state of California. And it's literally in the wording in the school system. So we're talking about now we have a challenge. You say, you know what? There are some kids, there are some people who they want to imitate the mannerisms of the opposite gender or something like that. Now it's becoming more and more common. We say, why is it becoming so common? Why are people so confused? Why is this happening more and more? It's not a coincidence. It's not just because there's more hormones in your diet or you're eating a lot of soy or something like that. There's an underlying philosophy and movement that's pushing these things, which is going to end up causing us to become among the people who the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has cursed. But this is a long topic, and I don't have 5 hours to present. I've presented 10-hour presentations on this topic. But the reminder is, in Islam, we believe that gender is binary. There's a male and a female. And we also believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as one or the other, and that there are biological differences between both, and there are certain unique aspects, cultural changes a little bit in culture, but there's certain unique aspects of how men should dress and behave, and certain unique aspects of how women should dress and behave. And if you try to cross over and reverse and say, I'm going to be a rebel and I'm going to go against that, and I'm a guy and I think it's cool to wear nail polish and I'm going to wear high heels to my friend's walima, and the girl goes, I'm going to wear a suit and tie, and what should I do? I'll wear hijab with the suit and a tie, and it's going to be cool, and I'm fashionable, and I'm challenging the status quo. You are doing something that is so serious that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cursed the people who did that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our community. Ameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.